Hey, all right, everybody. This is Chris Wilmoth, and I'm back for another episode of the Pulling Around Show. And today we've got a legend with us, Mr. Jimmy the Kid Wetch. Jimmy, thanks for joining us.
All right, hello. Thank you for doing this video and choosing me.
Well, I know that you asked me how you knew me. Of course, you probably don't remember me, but I think if I'm not mistaken, it was at Magoo's in Tulsa um, for the Camel Pro Tour.
Okay.
Um, but I don't remember if it was not. I went 2 years, 97 and 98. 98 is when I went up there to watch James Walden play, and I think Charlie Bryant played in it too. And then Charlie got beat out, and then they went to the front room, and he played. I think he played Jimmy Reed and give Jimmy the seven and beat him out of like 3 grand. So that's what I remember most about that little trip. But this is not about me. This is about
Yeah.
you. Um.
98
So
was the last year I played on tour,
yeah,
and I finished sixth on the rankings that year. And then,
yeah. Was 98 the last year or 99?
yeah,
Because I know that
98. No,
98.
99 was the last season, but politics came in. There was a lot of politics going on back then, and uh, that's how I ended up not playing in the 99 season.
Okay, I thought Camel the tobacco companies, they made it to where they couldn't sponsor sporting events, so that you
Yeah,
lost
but
you
they
lost
did
the
it.
Camel sponsor.
99 was the last year,
Okay, all right,
but I was 98. I played, and if you were a top 32 player, and then especially top 16, because that's seeding, then every year you got first bid to to agree and sign a contract to play for that year.
right.
But they lied and said they didn't get my entry fee.
Um,
Number one, and number two, even if they weren't lying, then they would have gave you a call when you're finished sixth the year before, right?
right,
Which
to
they
to
never
make
did.
sure to
Never
make sure
did
you
that.
wanted to play.
But the reason they did that is I spoke uh, negatively against Camo and positively about the Pro Billiards Tour back then, and I was just honest during
Right,
an interview, and they didn't. I don't think they cared for that. So that they just said they didn't get my entry fee. That was a way of kicking me off the tour.
right, right.
But
So
that was the last year they played then, so it didn't really matter much. But
right, right. So tell me, so like I said, this interview, these interviews are about the players, about the legends, the players. So tell me, tell me a little bit about growing up. Like, like,
like how I got started.
well, yeah, I'll get into that, but I mean, before like school and like stuff you were interested in school before pool started to consume your life.
I don't know. I seem looking back on my life, I never did more than one thing. I just would always be like just consumed with whatever I did, whatever that one thing was,
Right.
The
Um,
last thing, the last thing I did was fishing,
yeah,
and
yeah.
but, but
Um,
back then it was just different, a lot of gambling, even before I played pool, did a lot of gambling.
what other kinds of stuff did you gamble at besides pool?
Anything, sports,
Anything?
coins, foosball with my friends, pinball with my friends. Yeah.
Were you a good foosball player?
I don't remember all that. I don't think I was anything special. I just like it would just be a group of us, and would always gamble against each other, and then you have your own cliques in school and you'd gamble, you know.
Right.
But that's what drew me when we went to the pool room. You got free if you got high score at the end of the week, they gave free or 10 hours of free pool. And that's how I got started playing pool in the pool room. So I won the hours off of the video games. Then I'd play pool with my friends, and I just excelled quickly over them, and then would catch the eye of some of the older guys, and they'd start helping you a little bit, and it just kind of went from there.
Yep. Town that I used to live in, on Sundays you go to church, and they give you, they have the little church bulletins. Well, if you take that bulletin to the arcade or where the pool table was at, they'd give you $4 or $5 worth of quarters, and that's the only reason I went to church, was to get that bulletin so I could go play pool.
Yeah.
So, phones. So other than that, I mean, what about what part about pool interested you the most? And what was about the game that made you fall in love with it?
Well, I just think the competition of it, probably, and you, just the learning. I don't know, when you're younger, I don't know, just everything about the game, the balls, the patterns, the learning of it. Some of the better, whoever's better than you, I just would ask a lot of questions, and just seemed like I excelled at the game very quickly,
Right.
And then when you go to a pool room, you always feel like you got friends, you always know somebody, and then somebody helps you, especially when you're young. Everybody's willing to help you.
So who was it that you felt like taught you the most at pool?
When I was first starting out?
Yeah.
Well, there was a guy named Bubbles helped me out. That was his nickname, and Joe Sod. They were the ones that gave me a lot of opportunity, and pushed me to make me believe I could go up in increments. Like, I would think I couldn't play somebody, and they'd say, you can play that person,
Right.
But Joe Sod is the one that gave me opportunities. And then the first person, him and John Alexis, in fact, he just passed away last week, and he would take me around the tournaments, and I lived in St. Paul. He would take me to Minneapolis and things like that, and take me to tournaments out of town a couple of times. And so that kind of got my feet wet, where you see another side of the game. And
so when did you realize that, hey, I'm pretty good at this game, and I think I'd like to, do this for a living. I mean, so what was the turning point from, just playing locally and to going on the road?
Well, I remember one time, I think it impacted a lot. I've heard other pro players say it. I was at the pool room one day. I think I was 15 at the time, living with my dad. Just got home from the pool room, and I walked in, and Earl Strickland was playing Steve Miserak. And remember, he pushed out and then jumped over that ball. That was the first time anybody saw that.
Yeah.
So besides seeing something like that, pool on TV, and then like I said, the gambling, I just loved the playing for money and things like that. But when I was 16, I did a couple of things that, back then, a lot of people played straight pool, you know, at least in the Midwest, the East Coast. And I ran over 100 balls. My first 100 ball run was 131. And that was when I was 16. And then then they had the World Nine Ball Championships, the Bush World Nine Ball Championships, where, you know, it was part of the Pro Tour, but it was close enough where I put my, you know, entry fee up and went and played in it. And Grady Matthews told me that I had the highest finish of any young player he ever seen. And I finished 9 through 12. I was only 16. So I beat some pro players in that tournament, obviously, to do that. And
Right.
so probably that experience kind of pushed it along too, probably, you know.
So what was your first tournament win?
On the tour?
Yeah.
Or you mean like when I was younger?
Or either one or both?
Well, back when we were young, we had a Minnesota Pool Players Association where we had tournaments in the pool rooms, you know, like every other week.
Right.
So that was a good way of getting better too.
Right.
And you know, at first my goal was just to get in the money. And back then you didn't have the handicaps like now. Everything's handicapped. Back then there was no handicap. So, you know, it was a different mindset. You know, my goal was just to get in the money. Nowadays, people think they're supposed to win, even if they're the worst player in the tournament. They think they're supposed to win or have an opportunity to win because of the handicap. But back then, my goal was just to get in the money, and then your goal would be to get in the top 10 and then the top 5. And then once you do that, then you start feeling like, hey, maybe I can win one of these, you know.
Who was your toughest opponent besides yourself?
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
when I'm young?
Like playing when you started playing pro, who was your toughest opponent? Who was that one person that, like the hump, that you just couldn't quite get over?
Well, I don't really feel like I had that. You
Okay.
just, I think when I was on the pro tour, once I played on the pro tour, I was well groomed for that because I traveled on the road, you know, almost 10 years before I played on the tour. So I was all over the country gambling and playing regional type tournaments and playing on all kinds of different conditions. And so I excelled on the pro tour relatively quickly.
So when you were on the road, and playing, I mean, do you find yourself in some predicaments that was kind of tough to get out of? You know, like people not wanting to pay, or you know, like
Well, I was fortunate. I don't know if you've ever heard of Jack Cooney.
Yeah.
You know, he's a legendary money player, hustler kind of guy. And he's pretty much the only person that I traveled with in them 10 years. A couple times I went off on my own and by myself, but most of the time I would go with him. And, you know, he knew how to handle himself and handle me. He kind of treated me like a son. And then I looked up to him. So you know, whatever he said, it was like that was the boss, you know.
right.
So I just, whatever he said, I pretty much did. But, you know, he just was very experienced, you know, like we would never just go into our room. We would always have the car and search the room before you go in there. Only one would go in there, you know, and then the car would be waiting. You didn't just go right into your room, stuff like that. Make
Right.
sure that it's clear. Stuff like that, where most people probably wouldn't think to do stuff like that, you know. Well,
So
we would.
when you turned pro, what was the best part of being a pro player?
Well, I feel like I started at a really good time, you know. Don Mackey and the Pro Billiards Tour had it was getting a lot better every year, and that's kind of what led me to want to play in it. You know, it was starting to be on TV, and money was getting better, and you could get sponsors back then, you know. And then I got a pool room with John Alexis in December of '93. And then I started playing on the tour in '94. And, you know, I went from no ranking at all to being ranked 16th, which put me rookie of the year at the time. So, you know, like I said, that's kind of unheard of to go from no ranking to top 16 back in them days. And so that I had good experience right away. And then every year I got better. But
So we talked a little bit the other day about the Pro Billiard Tour, and you know what do you think was the number one reason that it dismantled, or that it fell apart?
well, I know exactly why it fell apart. I was a part of it.
Uh,
You know, a lot of people think they know the story back then, but they don't. And a lot of people, you know, like Don Mackey got a bad rap back then because of he was the leader of it, and they only hear what, you know, the industry kind of says. But the industry back then, they were greedy. They never put no money into the events. You know, they just kind of stayed to themselves. The only person that put money into the events that back then really was Mucci. But when the Camel Pro Billiard Tour came around, like I said, the simplest way to put it is uh, like I own a pool room right now.
right.
And so if it'd be like you being RJ Reynolds, and then you come to my pool room and hang around a little bit, and then you offer me enough money that I can't refuse, and you become my partner. And then all along, your motive was to learn the business and then put me out of business. And that's what they did, you know. The downfall of, if I remember correctly, Don Mackey, you know, it was more of a handshake. It wasn't a, you know, like all the signed documents and contracts and whatnot. And for a couple of years, it was great, the Pro Billiards Tour and RJ Reynolds together, but then they pulled out like a month before the season was going to start. And then that left the Pro Billiards Tour with their hands in their pocket. They don't even have enough time to find a sponsor or try to start another tour or anything. So that's when the politics started, and the lawsuit with them happened, and you know that went on for a few years. And then RJ Reynolds and Pro Billiards Tour, they, you know, fought each other in court, and Pro Billiards Tour is as to this date, is the only sports enterprise that ever beat RJ Reynolds in the court of law in their hometown. And the Pro Billiards Tour was suing for like $70 million. And the judge even said that he only awarded them, I think, like 2.3 million. And he even said that you would have been awarded the full amount. But the only reason that you're not is because you're the only commissioner that I can go by. I'm only going by your word. But all the information that they had, they thought the Pro Billiards Tour was right and warranted.
Right.
So it was something along them lines, you know.
So the pool room you're talking about opening in '93, is that the same one you own now?
No, me and John Alexis opened that December of '93, and then I sold out of that. Just happened to be the same date that I opened the one I have now, December of '97. Yeah.
Been there ever since, huh?
Yeah.
So
A lot of ups and downs, but
yeah.
still there.
So, tell people the name of your pool room, and then is there a website for it, or is it just on Facebook?
Yeah, it's just on Facebook.
Well, I'll put a link to it in the
Okay.
description below, that way people can go check it out. And
Yeah.
what's the
Yeah,
name?
it's a beautiful pool hall now. The last 3 years I've been remodeling it, and I'm really proud of how it turned out. Yeah.
And what's the name of it again?
Jimmy's Pro Billiards. It's in Columbia Heights, Minnesota.
How is pool in Minnesota?
Well, it's great. The pool rooms that are open, it's league operated, a lot of leagues, at night.
Right.
Everybody's full with leagues,
Right. So what's your so we talked a little bit the other day about Matchroom and the other pool pro tour. I mean, what's your thoughts on pool today? I mean, do you think there's more people playing now than there were back when you were playing? Is it better, worse?
Well, I think around the world there's more people playing, Europe, Asia, but America, I don't think it's even close to what it was in the 90s.
Well, there's a ton of leagues.
Yeah.
APA, TAP, BCA, USAPL, VNEA.
Yeah, but all of them were around in the 90s too.
Right. Right.
But the difference then, young people went to the pool rooms, so you had the adult business plus all the teenagers in the pool room. But now there's no teenagers.
No, and I'm finding out that, since they started this Fargo stuff, of course, every system, there's somebody's going to try to manipulate it. But I run tournaments too, and I'm finding it that with these Fargo handicaps, if there's a lot of money in the lower tournaments, there's no reason for somebody that fits in that Fargo category. If they're making money there's no reason for them to try to get better. I posted an open tournament, just $40 entry, $1,000 added, and the first comment is, "Well, I'm not going to be there if it's an open tournament, because the better player is just going to come in there and slaughter everybody."
Yeah,
that means you don't want to get better.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So the whole mentality, Fargo has flipped everybody's mentality on the game of pool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do any traveling anymore, but in our area, I mean, the players won't even play in tournaments where it's winners breaks. It's not only got to be handicap, it's got to be alternate the break. They don't make sure that nobody runs any racks. I mean, right. Well, to me, it's great.
Everything here is alternate break as well.
Yeah, but that's why they do it, to stop any racks run. I mean, that's what made pool fun.
But do you know Evelyn and Danny Dossart?
Oh yeah,
they run that Midwest Nine-Ball Tour. Well, they ran two tournaments this year.
They did the Texas Express in the 90s.
Right. They ran those two tournaments at Olathe this year, and one of the 9-ball tournaments, I think, drew almost 200 players, and the one that they had last weekend drew 135. That's an open tournament, so of course, I mean, they've been gone for a while, since COVID hit, and everybody down in this area was scared to do a players auction because one person got busted. But now they've got that back going. I mean, but why can't somebody local get the same kind of turnouts?
Well, Dan Tall is one of the best guys you could ever meet, and
right, I agree.
So he has he just ran such a great pool room. That was like my home pool room in the 90s. Yeah, that's where I did all my gambling. Danny was like my best friend. We did all my gambling together, and but yeah, that was probably in the nineties, that was probably the pool room that had the most action consistently.
Yeah. Yeah, between there and the billiard palace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Billiard palace was pretty stout back then too.
yeah.
Um,
So I mean, it's a lot of it's got to do nowadays, social media, how strong your mailing list is,
right,
like
right.
that. That's how you, so that makes a difference.
So you personally, what would you like to see change about the game of pool?
Well, I mean, I could be wrong, but Matchroom, they look like they're doing a great job. Like,
Right,
uh, as far as their each year or each event, it looks a little fancier and fancier. Like something that a major sponsor could maybe want to get a hold of.
right,
But from what I see, it's the same situation as back in the day. They're hardly paying out any more money than the Pro Billiards and Camel did. And that Barry Hearns, that's the owner, right? Of Matchroom.
right. Okay,
Am I right? Yeah.
I believe so.
He's doing a great job of promoting it and making it look professional and whatnot, but that guy's selling commercials all over the world. Back then, we just played and maybe had a couple of commercials just here in the United States. I don't think it even went outside the United States. This guy's selling stuff all over the world, and other than first or second place, you can't make a living out there. I don't know how they go to all these tournaments all over the world. That's expensive.
Well, I think that they're individual sponsors. I think they're doing a little more for the players now than what they did, maybe back to when you were playing.
Who is?
I think like Q-Tech and Predator. I mean, Predator.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Q-Tech. What are they ain't doing nothing. They got a couple of people. That's the same thing back then. They had Earl Strickland and Allison Fisher. Now they got Shane Van Boeing and whoever it might be.
Yeah, it's Sky. And then,
Yeah. So I'm not saying I'm just saying it's the same thing, from what I see,
right.
10 guys, 15 guys that might have some kind of decent sponsorship outside of payouts from tournaments. But my point is if you're selling commercials all over the world, you're bringing in a lot more money than you're paying out. Isn't that right?
Right. And then, of course, and then the way that they're doing it, it's a lot cheaper to stream it, than it is to go to a syndicated television station like ESPN or something like that.
Right.
And then they could sell pay-per-view for, $25 for the whole weekend for the event. They're making money on that end too.
They've got to be making a lot of money because they're not paying out a lot. Like even the U.S. Open, they made a public announcement. Oh, we're going to pay $100,000 for first place. Like that's a big deal. I don't get it how the players are not getting together and saying something about it, because
without the players, without the players, there's no tournament.
Yeah, and they still haven't got together. Who's representing the players? Nobody other than Matchroom now. All the people that signed the contract with Matchroom. But I asked people, what did you get for signing? Nobody says they got anything. They just get to play in the events.
And then they sign a contract with the other one, and they can't play Matchroom.
Correct.
So I think it's.
And then, from what I heard last year, it's the first time in history now worldwide that they've sold $1 billion in product. If you combine everything to do with pool, $1 billion. In first place is 100,000 in the U.S. Open.
Right.
Something ain't right.
No, it's not. Right. That's
It's the first time in history reached over $1 billion. And the US Open is 100,000. And that guy, Brady Burn, or the guy that bought it, Barry Hearns, I mean, we had a US Open, if I remember right, when I played, that was 70, and I know for sure 50,000, and I think there was one that was 75,000. And now you're selling commercial and pay-per-view all over the world, and you're only paying 100.
How much do you think it costs for
about
the how much do you think it costs for them to set up that whole production?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I just know the Pro Billiards Tour did it and paid almost the same amount of money
Right.
with no commercials,
Right.
making money with commercials. Just the Pro Billiards Tour and some basic sponsors. It was nothing where it was being showed like that I remember. And then selling pay-per-view. You didn't have pay-per-view back then. So all I'm saying is there's a lot of money with commercials and pay-per-view, but the payout ain't much different. That's all I'm trying to say. But they're doing a great job presenting it. They're making it look awfully professional.
And it's
I give them that.
Yeah, and it's the only two.
But
Really, there's only two options that they've got.
But you think that
to play pro?
Yeah, but the Matchroom's they appear like they're trying to really do something with pool. You think they'd take some pride in the payout.
You do.
Why do you got to be so greedy? You're trying to make the sport bigger, or they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. Brady Burn, or I meant Barry Hearns, isn't he like in his 70s? And that's what he says. He wants to make pool big.
For him.
But you're publicly announcing that first place is the biggest tournament of the year. That thing in Saudi Arabia, that was just a fluke thing, like they did with golf, right? Where the Live Tour paying out all that money. But the reality of pool, if you get the Saudi Arabia tournament away, their highlight is $100,000 for the US Open. And then look at the payout below that is what I'm trying to say.
Probably a quarter of that.
And it's just way more money appears to be coming in than when I played.
And
the payout isn't hardly any different. Right.
And you think Derby City, as many players as they get at that thing, they pay out more than what they pay. But then I know they have they pay out 20,000 for the all around.
Yeah, but that's never really been like a tournament. That's more just like a jamboree get together, like a family reunion of pool players.
Which I've yet to go to, because it usually happens on mine and my wife's anniversary, and she's sure not going to let me drag her to a pool tournament on our anniversary. So, is there a?
But yeah, I mean, as far as leagues and the way they're presenting it, I mean, they're doing a great job. But Matchrooms, to me, they're presenting like they're trying to make pool big time, but they need to quit taking advantage of the players the way it looks to me.
Right. So before we go, tell me your favorite road story.
Favorite road story?
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be one that you tell to everybody that asks you about being on the road. So.
Yeah, I do have some, but as I laugh with some of my friends that I've traveled with, but being put on the spot, can't really think of that. You're talking about before pool tournaments?
Well, okay. So let me ask you this. Was there any kind of superstitions or anything that any thing that you would do before a match or before a tournament? Rituals or superstitions? I mean, did you meditate? Or?
I still do it to this day. I brush my teeth all the time. I still have a toothbrush. I always brush my teeth when I play pool. Like every couple hours, you know.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
of course I don't think they didn't
and
smoke in the
no,
where they were playing the
but
tournaments.
that's probably one of the more strange or unique things that I do, even at the local pool room, you know, or I should say at my pool room when I play, take a little break. Oh, Jimmy's gonna go brush his teeth again, you know.
There's,
So,
there's thanks your
but
worst habit. There's worse habits to have for sure.
yeah.
All right, you got one story.
Yeah, I don't know why nothing's coming to my mind. Of course, I'd have a lot of good ones, but I
Okay,
don't know why nothing's coming to mind.
so here's just
You're
the off.
talking about to try to make people laugh, the funny story.
I
Yeah.
just something. I guess to just
All I can say is I miss them days. I sure miss them. I used to love to play, and you know, back then we played a headsets. You know,
right.
you put up X amount of dollars and play for a long time, and you just play your heart out because you knew it was going to be a long battle. You know, where now you just play. They play race to 20 or one or something like that, a race to 15, and it's just over.
Right.
Or they play races to 75 and they play over 3 days. And so I don't know.
So
That's
you told me
it's a different style of pool than
correct. So you told me about coming to Oklahoma. Did you ever did you ever play Walden or Norman Hitchcock?
Norman Hitchcock.
Yeah,
Who's it? Is it?
he was I guess one of the local legends in here in Oklahoma in Oklahoma City. So
Oh,
he was a weirdo. He was weird, but he could play. I
yeah.
mean,
Sorry, I never heard that name
I
before,
think
but James Walden played at some place there.
at either Chester's pool room or
Yeah, we played for a high dollar match, 15 ahead, but we played a 12-hour time limit. And then the first day I was up 3 games at the end of the day, 12 hours. And then the next day he said, let's play with no time limit. And I agreed to it. And then I beat him in 15 hours. So 15 ahead, it was a total of 27 hours, but split up twice, 2 days, you know. But yeah,
go ahead.
he was a good methodical money player. He became a lot better one baga player, I think,
Mhm.
James Walden, if I remember right.
Yep, they inducted him into the One Pocket Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, I think him and Jeremy Jones, I think, was just inducted into it. So,
Mhm.
but probably 15 years ago, they inducted him into the Hall of Fame. And he's trying to get back into playing, um, but I don't I don't I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
He,
James Walden wasn't really you talking about James Walden?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, unless he's a totally different person. He didn't even really play pool tournaments too
no,
much. So
no,
that'd be a whole different lifestyle for him.
yeah. I back in '97 or '98, I went. I used to run around with Charlie Bryant, and him and I went to Tulsa, and James was had a match set up with Alex Pagline. They were going to play two 12 headsets. Uh, they were going to play 12 ahead for 5,000, and they played two sets. James beat Alex both sets, and the backer said I'm done. But that was before Alex got. I mean, he was on the road gambling.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was running around with John Chicharro from Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah, back then, James. I mean, he was the best in Oklahoma for sure at that time.
Yeah, he was a very good, solid player, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, before I let you go, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I just answering your questions. Thank you for letting me be part of the pool world again.
Well, I hope to get up that way one day and come visit your pool hall and maybe do another interview, but
Okay.
get some get some pictures of the inside of the place. And I heard your burgers are pretty good. So
Yeah.
come up here and I can put a hamburger away.
Yeah, we got good food.
Yep, that's what I heard.
Mhm.
Well, guys, appreciate y'all joining us. I want to thank Jimmy again for taking some time and sitting with me. If y'all enjoy content like this, please hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost anything. And then hit the notification bell so you know when more videos are uploaded. And I'll see y'all next time on the Pulling Around Show.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good one.
Thank you.